Thanks for joining me today at Slot Feather Racing. For those who don't know, my name is Dan, and I want to thank you for joining me today in this special Buyer's Guide for Christmas edition of HO Slot Cars.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Before we get going, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for watching this video. Today is going to be a little bit laid back. I'm just going to explain a few cars, maybe a few different tracks. We'll take the cars for a spin on my urban track, and we'll talk about the right car at the right price. So today we're only going to be focused on cars and sets that are new and available today. All right, let's talk about the cars. First off, we'll talk a little bit about the 4 chassis we'll be talking about today. And that'll be from my left, your right. We'll start here. Of course, we have the AFX Mega G Plus chassis. Here we have, this is the Thunderjet. Here we have the Extraction. And here we have the 4-gear. We're going to take a look at all these cars individually, one by one, and then we're going to put them on the track. Let's get into that. So, starting off with the Ford GT here. Yeah, this is easily one of my favorite cars. And the reason being, I mean, aside from how it looks, Race Masters chassis are pretty much ready to go. They take very little work to run, and they don't require any work to start going. I would have to say 99% of the time you drop an AFX car onto the track, a newer one, it will go. All right, that being said, let's have a quick look at the chassis. And anybody who watches my videos knows that this is probably one of my top 3 cars. And with the front tire pit kit, absolutely fantastic. Let's have a look at the chassis. Okay, of course it has the level, your car wouldn't come with this, but this has the SVR treatment to it, of course, meaning it does have the front tire pit kit and the level 42 magnets. So here we are having a look at the chassis. And of course it's the can style motor. Here's the rest of it. The new ones do have this little controller so that when one car flies off the track, these cars don't turn themselves into rocket ships. Really nice. Okay. Okay, so I'd just like to do a quick shout out to Brian Young at ProTinkerToys.com. When I first started buying all my slot car stuff from those guys, absolutely fantastic service. Customer service is probably beyond none. Brian was giving away, I guess he had bought all of these fantastic looking cars. Of course, this is the T-Jet or the Thunderjet. This, of course, is the Plymouth Barracuda. Let's have a look at the chassis. This is the, these are the chassis. They're nice and tight. They usually run really well. They don't feel loose. And here I've upgraded it by taking out the plastic guide pin, which 100% will break on you in the first couple minutes of your racing. See that? Look at, pin's gone. Bye. What a pain in the ass. So now they've come out with these new steel ones that you actually screw right through to hold the shell on. Gosh, I wish this was a little better. I need a microscope to do these HO videos. Okay, there we go. Perfect. You can see there, it's actually screwed in now. It's not sitting in there. And it's holding the chassis to the shell. Much better. Okay. Let's have a look at the chassis. Okay, so this is what the top side of the Thunderjet would look like. This is not the car I showed you. That's right here. But I can't seem to find the little wrench to get that screw off of there, the guide pin. So this is exactly the same chassis. I just haven't converted it with the guide pin, so it's not a pain in the ass to get off. So here's what it would look like. The guide pin goes through the front hole, of course, instead of the old plastic Thunderjet guide pin, and it holds the chassis to the mount. There we go. I believe Auto World is now putting these steel screw and guide pins on all of their Thunderjet pit kits and deluxe pit kits. So if you have an opportunity to pick one of those up and you're a hobbyist who likes to build your own chassis and stuff, they absolutely have a fantastic selection. If you go onto their website, Auto World, whatever it is, autoworld.com probably, you'll find they have a whole bunch of different unpainted deluxe pit kits to build. Fantastic. So that's the Thunderjet or T-Jet. There you have it. And of course, this is the Plymouth Cuda. Big fan of Datsuns when I was younger growing up. They always look so incredibly cool. And if this one doesn't look cool, I don't know what does. They've even dropped a set of Hoosiers on it. Isn't that fantastic? All right, so what we have here is the modern day extraction chassis by Auto World. Look at the bottom. Let's put a light on things. Okay. Oh, there we go. Let's turn it this way. So the problems I've been finding with these current Auto World product is pretty simple, actually. These pads here, they're always bent, and the shoe gets pulled to the side, and then the shoe comes out, the spring goes missing, or they're not connected properly at the front. This car was actually probably one of the best Auto World extraction chassis I've seen in current day. They did a really good job on this line. I don't know what makes this one any different. I really don't think there would be a difference, but there you go. So here we are. Let's have a look at the chassis. Okay. So if you've bought a modern day extraction chassis or Auto World set with extraction cars in it, this is what you know what this looks like. This is it right here. The extraction chassis they're all right. They're tight. They've done a decent job on making sure they don't feel loose and wiggly. They need to do a little work on this bottom area though, to tell you the honest truth. I'm not extremely impressed with always having to move all this stuff around. In my mind, you shouldn't have to move anything. You should just be able to drop it down and go. All right, so that's the extraction. And this is, of course, the Datsun 510 by Auto World. With the Hoosiers. Woo-wee. Looks great. So here we are. Everybody, I think, knows what car this is. This was the exclusive release by ProTinkerToys.com. And today we are talking about not the car itself, but what's sitting under it. And that would be the 4-gear chassis. Let's have a quick look at the Batmobile, I guess, while we're here. I like how Batman and Robin are in it. Oh, fantastic. When you can get a figure in an HO slot car and it looks good, damn, it's hard to do. All right, let's have a look at the chassis. Okay, so here we are, the underside. Essentially, it's really just a stretched extraction chassis. Once again, we have problems with these being crooked. You can see it's kind of crooked here. And what happens is it pulls the shoes over and they don't connect with the track properly. Okay, so here's part of the problem why 4 gears are not really the best choice for HO dragsters, and that's the gearing. There's too many gears here, and it takes this way too long to get up to speed. They're slow. If you watch my 4 gear hop-up series, I've tried to do what I think I need to do to make them go faster, and I'm just waiting on some new armatures. And like the extraction chassis, this one is a 4 gear, and it would have what's called a pancake motor, meaning the motor's sitting flat and it's spinning around like an airplane propeller. If you're a follower of my channel, then you've been watching my Top Fuel and Funny Car Fridays, and this is what sits underneath every single one of them. Woo! Backwards. Okay, so there we have it. That's the 4 gear. Thank you, Batman and Robin. And for anyone's interested in seeing the individual videos and reviews for these cars, every single car I'm showing right now has its very own video. So let's go back over to what we have here now. Of course, we have the red Batmobile, the exclusive release by ProTinkerToys.com. It sits on top of the 4 gear chassis by Auto World. Here we have the 510 Datsun. It's an Auto World extraction chassis. Here we have the Plymouth Barracuda. It sits on top the T-Jet or the Thunderjet chassis, also by Auto World. And this, of course, is the red Ford GT #1. And of course, it sits on top of the Mega G Plus chassis by AFX Race Masters. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for watching. Let's take these cars to the track and we'll talk about what's appropriate for you and your setup. Thanks for joining me at Slot Valley Racing. Today we're at the urban track where we're going to run these cars around and talk a little bit about what car will be right for you or your setup. We'll talk age appropriateness and how you can deal with the cars if they're still a little out of your control. Thanks everybody for joining me today. All right, so the first car we're going to look at is this absolute AFX beauty here. It of course has the Mega G Plus chassis. So what I found is AFX cars are pretty much ready to roll straight out of the box, okay? If you don't really want to spend a lot of time tinkering with your cars and you just want to run them and go, there's no other, in my mind, better choice than AFX. Now there's another reason why AFX is a good choice for both beginners, intermediate, and experts. It's because of their power pack. Now AFX has been producing this Tri-Power power pack for a long time now. And it's always worked great for me. And I haven't really heard any major complaints from anybody else either. So keeping that in mind, what you would be looking at is if you find that your kids or yourself keep turning your cars into jet planes, well then you just bump it down one notch on the power transformer attached to the wall. And AFX does have their basic track out right now. And it does come with 2 cars. And I believe it's only like $110. So here's the catch, guys. The 2 cars alone are worth $110. You get the track and everything else for free. The 2 cars are the new AFX Formula E, I think they call them. They both look fantastic. All right, enough of my babble. Let's take this car for a cruise around the track. All right, so we'll take the Ford GT for a cruise here and see how she does. We'll talk about it a little bit. Is this the right car for you? Is this the right track for you? Here we go. So what I find is, for the most part, every single brand new AFX Racemaster car drives really good right out of the box. Nice and consistent. AFX has good power. Fun to drive. And the livery on this car is fantastic. It looks absolutely racy. If that's the look you're after, I really personally like the look of a real race car. And you can see the AFX car on the urban track with the curves goes good. I think it's only on novice right now, which is in between. I think it's like 12 volts. And the top is 22. All right, so that's the AFX car. So what we have here is the Plymouth Barracuda. It's on the Thunderjet or T-Jet chassis. If I would have to say, in the 2 major brands that are producing cars these days, this has to be the lower end of all of them. This is more of a hobbyist chassis. This is the kind of chassis you buy when you want to tinker around with it. Either that, or you're a Thunderjet 500 fan, and you've been playing with these for a long time. They're decent cars. They're slow. They can be made fast. But this is pretty much where you start. Nice looking car. Drives just fine. Once again, though, you're going to need to probably put a little bit of work into it. So when you're considering tracks you'll be buying or want to buy for Christmas or any other time, try and keep these factors in mind. Let's take her for a drive. All right. So here we have the Barracuda. And it's, of course, got the Thunderjet or the T-Jet chassis under it. So we'll take it for a drive. We'll talk about it a little bit. Of course, this is an Auto World car. And as you will see, it drives much differently than the Mega G Plus car. Here we go. Right off the hop, it just doesn't have the same feeling to it. It sounds rough, and if you actually watch it, it slows down, speeds up. Kind of like some crazed lunatic constantly on his gas pedal and then off, and then on, and then off. The car itself does, however, look nice. So, I'm not exactly sure you would want to buy a set with this car in it for anyone who's younger. This is really a hobby style car. I personally only own 3 of these chassis. I'm personally just not interested in them. Yeah, so here we have The Auto World Thunderjet chassis. All right, so what we have here is a Datsun 510. It's made by Auto World, and it's on the Extraction chassis. The Extraction chassis is their midline chassis. They usually work out pretty good, but I find they need a little bit of tweaking before you can really get them running good. And the average person definitely doesn't want to have to tinker around with a car just to get it to move on a track they just paid a couple $100 for. So let's take this specimen for a tour on my urban track and see how she does. Okay, here we have the Datsun 510 on the Auto World Extraction chassis. Let's take it for a cruise. Huh. There we go. Well, it looks a little choppy on the track right now. I have seen this car run really nice, but it ran really nice on my super speedway. It doesn't seem to be handling the corners so great. That's more of an extraction thing. I also think this car could probably use a little more downforce. It looks good. It's not performing so well right now, but it doesn't sound super noisy. So, for the most part, an extraction chassis is probably where you'll be if you're purchasing a Auto World set of any sort these days. It's kind of where they go. It's their go-to. They're all right, but there's better, and there's also worse. That's the 510 Datsun on the Extraction chassis by Auto World. All right, so here we have the Batman and Robin Batmobile. It sits on top of the 4-gear chassis. Now, the 4-gear chassis is not really a chassis they put underneath slot cars too much. They're a little bit longer. 4-gear chassis work really well on long, stretched out tracks. So urban tracks with tight corners, really twisty, normally aren't the best place for a 4-gear. Now, that being said, from what I've found with 4 gears are pretty tight. The only problem is they're slow. But if you're not really concerned with super fast cars, 4 gears are nice drives, and they like to stay on the track because of the magnets. You can see there's 2 traction magnets on this car. Yeah, it stays. All right, finally we have the Batmobile, the red one. It's an exclusive release by ProTinkerToys.com. Let's take it for a ride. If you guys have been watching my Top Fuel and Funny Car Friday videos, this is the chassis, the 4-gear chassis that's underneath all the dragsters. All right, here we go. So the 4-gear chassis is a little bit longer, so it doesn't really do good with tight corners. if it's a little spread out, these cars can rock pretty good. They're not super fast once again, but it is a nice looking car. It's driving nice on my urban track. And it looks so cool with the Batman and Robin in there. All right, guys. While we're having one last look at these cars, let's briefly touch on them one more time before we head out. So here we have the Mega G Plus product. In my mind, AFX is putting out some really interesting stuff. Their cars always seem to be ready to roll, and they certainly don't need anything to get them to run right off the hop. They're moderately priced, and they do have a certain variety of racetracks, although their big one lately, of course, is the Horsepower Shootout. Here we have the Thunderjet, or the T-Jet. It's made by Auto World. It comes in various sets. This is more of a car for guys who've probably collected these and raced these since they were young. The norm these days probably leans more towards this car and this chassis. Of course, this is the Auto World Extraction chassis. And you can find these chassis in just about every single one of Auto World's new releases. And of course, we have the 4-gear. Once again, 4-gears are not too bad. They're not super fast cars, but they do drive nice and they're quiet. They're not particularly made for short, twisty corners. They really like to be spread out. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope I was able to help you guys make some decisions. Man, these sets are getting more and more expensive, and you want to make sure you got the right one before you start dropping your hundos. Man, I've bought 2 of those Horsepower Shootout sets now. I love them. They're so great. Don't forget, coming up, guys, I will have my impromptu sale and Q&A. Anything you wanted to know, that would probably be the time. And I'm also going to be selling a few closed cars, a few items from around the track. And of course, I'll be selling that horsepower set without the cars. So you'll get all the cool catch fencing and everything else that came in, just no cars. Thanks for joining me today at Slot Valley Racing. For those that don't know, my name is Dan. And if this video hasn't been educational, I hope it's at least been entertaining. I want to thank you all for your time. I'd like to thank all my subscribers. Thank you very much. Every day I wake up, we seem to be a little bit closer to the goal of making a goal. Thanks, guys. And don't forget, get your heart racing.
I'll be back.